everybody, and welcome to our team call with a little Spice Girl pre-jam music. If you were on live, I'm really excited about this topic. One of my absolute favorite things to talk about is personality types, why people think the way that they think, why they do the things that they do, and Lo is awesome at this topic and at finding little tendencies in people and why they do the things that they do and analyzing people in a really productive way that's also very complimentary. Is that a word? I don't know. But like, she makes you feel really good, so it's going to be really cool. I hope that you did the quiz before to find out which of the 4 tendencies that, oh, sorry, I just hit my Apple Watch goal and it told me, and I'm really excited. I am really excited about this, not just the Apple Watch goal, but I'm really excited about this topic and for all of us to learn. So I hope you have a pen and paper, grab one really quick, like literally sprint and come back because this is going to be awesome. If you don't know Lo, she'll give a little bit of background about her, but if you do know her, you're probably like really obsessed with her because she has a personality that you just, vicious head nods. I see a lot of vicious head nods. You just kind of get obsessed with her, which is how I feel. So without further ado, I'm just gonna turn the time over to you. You do your thing, girl. I'm gonna make you speaker view too.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I remember from the last time I did this that I got like really weirded out by the fact that like I could say things to you, but I couldn't hear anything that you guys were saying. So Keisha, every now and again, you might need to like pepper something in because it weirds me out. Also, interestingly, this is like sometimes my fun fact at parties when I remember, well, who does it at a party, but like at a team building event, I guess, when I remember fun facts. But my first career ambition was to be Sporty Spice. So that was kind of the perfect, little intro music there. So anyway, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys are having an epic week. This week has been pretty fun and epic for me, and I've gotten to work from home, so bonus. I'm really, really excited to talk to you guys about this, and I have a lot of thoughts circling in my brain about this and like ideas, and I don't want to forget anything, but I know that I'm going to. So I tried to make it a little bit more structured, but I, spoiler alert, am a rebel. And if any of you guys are interested in or know your Myers-Briggs, I'm also an ENFP. So those two things together, like structure is not my jam. It kind of makes me want to die a little bit. But I tried. So if you really, really need structure, you're going to have to talk to an upholder about that because I am just doing the best that I can. And fun little story about Keisha, my favorite upholder, is, oh, man, she could not be more upholder. Some of the things that she says and does, I'm like, oh, how very upholder of you. She can even, like, legit, I've messaged her and been like, that was a really upholder thing for you to say the other day. And in our 80-day obsession group, someone posted this quote that said, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I firmly disagree with that because there's a lot of things that I don't do at the same level, but it is like such an upholder thing to say that it just cracked me up that Keisha was like, yes, I totally resonate with that. So anywho, so I'm Lo, for those of you who I don't know and who don't know me. I'm from kind of all over Washington, but I am currently living just north of Seattle in a little town called Linwood. It's really trying to be like a cute little town, but it's not. And I am a full-time veterinarian and a part-time Beachbody coach. And I only really mention that specifically because I know there's a lot of new coaches on the team and hopefully on this call that are sometimes a little bit intimidated to have big dreams and big goals in this business because they have a full-time job and maybe it's one that they love and don't ever see themselves giving up. And it's really easy to kind of look and see people that have been here for years and years and that are now full-time coaches and forget that they started as part-time coaches too. So I just want you guys to know that it is totally possible, even if you have a really, really demanding job, to just rock this business part-time too. So also, before I forget, one of my dogs is kind of cranky today, and if the cat goes anywhere near her kennel, she like snarls at him because she's not very nice. I mean, she is wonderful, but not to him. So I'm really sorry if like an awkward dog snarl happens. She's a really lovely lady. I promise. She just wishes she was an only child. It's fine. Who doesn't? So a little bit about me. I tend to be like pretty obsessed about anything that I like. I don't really like half-ass anything. And my current obsessions, well, I'm always obsessed with Harry Potter, Hufflepuff. I am obsessed with Taylor Swift, obviously. I am obsessed with margaritas and with nachos, but not currently because 80-Day Obsession. I'm obsessed with 80-Day Obsession. And I'm obsessed with matte color stay lipsticks, like this one, Maybelline, in case you're wondering, like $8 at Target. And it lasts a really long time. I'm not super great at removing my makeup at night, which I know is really bad for you, but whatever, I have other battles that I need to be fighting right now. And sometimes in the morning, I do Instagram stories, like when I'm doing my workout, and I've legit been called out and been like, why are you wearing lipstick at 5 a.m.? And then I started getting really self-conscious about it. So now I like scrub my lipstick off in the mornings. It's fine. But enough about me. I am pumped to talk to you guys about this. And I think we'll just go for it. I'm going to try sharing. I'm on my iPad, so it might look a little weird. Let me know if it's odd, but Keisha and I like tested this out earlier, so hopefully it'll work. Okay, can you guys see? Can you see me? Okay, all I can see is Keisha. I can't even see myself, so.
I'll get a little head nods.
Okay, if I get like something on my teeth or something, Jen, like tell me. Anywho, okay, so I actually really classically rebel. The first time I like heard about this was when another coach in our team, Casey Rashavi, posted, like, she's like, you guys, I found this really cool thing. You guys should all take this quiz. And being the rebel that I am, I'm like, don't got time for that, and moved on. And then I heard it in a podcast, and I completely forgot that I had ever heard of this before. And then I was obsessed with it. So that's how I kind of heard about the 4 tendencies. And I think that this is going to be hopefully really helpful for you guys, because I think it's super important as a person, but also as a coach and as a business mentor, to have self-awareness, but also to have awareness of other people, and to recognize that your way of doing things is not necessarily everyone else's way. And that I'm a firm believer that as a leader, you need to motivate people the way that they're motivated, not the way that you are motivated. And having that sort of understanding of different ways that people are motivated can be really helpful. Hopefully it will be really helpful. I'll be spending a lot of the bulk of it kind of talking about each of the tendencies and how to utilize that tendency to your advantage. And I think it's important to recognize that there are strengths, but there are also weaknesses of all these tendencies. And this isn't something, and I think it's really, really important to recognize that having a weakness doesn't make you weak, if that makes sense. And knowing your weakness sort of takes the power away from that and puts it in your pocket. And I think recognizing the things that you're not strong with, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to change who you are. And I don't know that you should, but you can play up other things and then help mitigate some of your weaknesses. So let me see. Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to start out kind of talking about them in context to your own personal journey as a person. And I think most of us got started in this because we had some sort of health and fitness goal, and we're all imperfect and we all struggle in some ways. And I want to kind of talk about how this can help us be better people, and then also be better coaches to our customers, and as we all start to lead teams too. So let's see, I have a variety of notes, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place. Okay. And then I heard this quote and I fell in love with this quote. Finally, I'm coming to the conclusion that my highest ambition is to be who I already am. And I think that is sort of the theme of this, is that the tendencies Gretchen Rubin, who's the creator of the 4 Tendencies. I don't want anyone to think that I made this up. No. She pretty firmly believes that this is an inherent thing, that we're born with this. And she's used many examples, and I won't get into that because I think y'all should just listen to her book, about how it's very easy to see in early childhood these things come out. And so I think how beautiful is it to become the best version of yourself. Like, don't try to be someone that you're not. You're already pretty great, and just working to kind of hone yourself. And so I love this quote, and this quote may also speak to me because apparently Thomas Merton was a rebel. So okay, so most of you hopefully took the quiz, so you're already sort of familiar with what the 4 different tendencies are. And so basically what this is, and this is a little bit different than other personality quizzes, in that it's not like your personality as a whole, it's a specific aspect. And one that I think is pretty kind of leaks into other areas of our lives, but it's specifically about how you respond to expectations and building habits and forming new habits and making decisions. And so there's the upholder, who is someone who meets outer expectations and inner expectations. There's the obliger, who meets outer expectations, but not so much inner expectations. There's the questioner, who's the opposite, who resists outer expectations, but meets inner expectations. And then there's the rebel, who resists all expectations. And that sounds really confusing, and it is, but I think, fortunately, I'm a rebel, so I think this is a really hard personality type for people who are not rebels, so hopefully it's an advantage that the person presenting this is a rebel. But I think the point is that none of these things, your strengths or your weaknesses, will excuse you from doing the work that it requires to be a better human and to be a better business lady or man, businessman. So anyway, I'm moving on. Okay, we're gonna hang out at this slide for a little while. Not as long as other slides though. I honestly don't have a ton to say about upholders because you guys are completely foreign to me. You'll notice in that Venn diagram, we don't touch. Like the upholder and the rebel circles, we don't touch. But I've tried really hard to learn things about you. I just don't really, I like you. I appreciate you. I see a huge need for you in my life, but I don't get it. Okay, so upholders. Discipline is my freedom. That also makes no sense to me, but good for you. But I see it in people that I know that are upholders. I can get where that, it sounds suffocating to me, quite frankly, but I get it. Okay, so have you ever heard yourself saying, why didn't you just do it the way I told you to? Your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency on my part. Just do it. Well, if you found yourself saying those things, you might be an upholder, my friend. I think what's interesting about upholders is that they, as the slide says, they readily meet outer expectations and inner expectations. These are the type of people that just recognize who they want to be and the type of person that they want to be, and then they just do what needs to be done. And it's often difficult for them to give advice on, I don't understand, like, how do you do it? Because I don't know, I just do it. And that's not a super satisfying piece of advice for anyone who's not an upholder. They love schedules, they love routines, they love to-do lists, they love to check off to-do lists, they like to add things to their to-do list that they've already done so that they can check it off because it feels so great. It's so accomplishing. I see that face because I know you do it, Keish. They meet deadlines without any sort of fuss. You give them something to do and it's pretty easily done. They're very good at follow through. This is something that creating new habits is not super difficult for them. Once they decide, I want to be the type of person that works out regularly, or I want to build this business. Like, it's just sort of, okay, and like, then we're going to do it. They hate, it says hates setting people down. That sounds weird. They don't like letting people down. I should clarify. Especially themselves. They really, really, like, that is the biggest pet peeve for an upholder, is to let someone including themselves. And often when it comes to if there is a disconnect between outer and inner expectations, inner expectations will win out because they're very, very, very fascinated by and drawn and driven by their integrity and morality and their character. However, these type of people, and if you're one of these people, you need clarity, and you need clarity in what you want, because everything is going to feel like a priority to you. And so, for instance, if someone comes to you and has a bunch of things that they want you to do, and then you have a bunch of things that you want to do, it can often feel very overwhelming because everything feels important. And so it's going to be very important, if you're an upholder, to get really, really, really freaking clear on who you want to be and what you want to accomplish, and then prioritize accordingly. Or else you're going to do what upholders do, is they tighten down and they become relentless about things. And if you are dealing with or working with an upholder, you need to be really, really careful about suggesting things to them, because a suggestion is going to turn into, well, clearly I should do that. So for instance, if I said to, let's say Keisha was not as self-aware as she is as an upholder, and I said, hey Keish, I think that you would be really good at leading a yoga class. Then Keisha would be like, yes, I must lead a yoga class. And that could be something that like you just tighten down and you can't let go. And so it's really, really important when you start to feel yourself as an upholder feel overwhelmed by the things on your to-do list, or the things that because you hate letting people down, right? And you don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let yourself down. It's really important for you to get clear on what is more important, this inner expectation or this outer expectation, and get very focused. And you need to be able to deal with change a little bit better than you are good at, than you are. Upholders have many strengths. They're self-disciplined, they're self-driven, they're very reliable, they're incredibly thorough people, remarkably independent people, and they don't really require a whole lot of follow-up or follow-through or goading. But they do struggle with changes in their routine or changes in anything. If you're late to a meeting, there's no tolerance for that. They're very resistant to change, which can be a downside, because as we all know, this world is not without change and not without changes in structure. And sometimes upholders need to be really conscientious of how they come across, because they are so matter of fact in general, it can come off cold and rigid. They can also be somewhat judgmental. And so it's important for upholders to recognize, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but it's really important for upholders to recognize that not everyone is an upholder. And I think that that's honestly the hugest thing. And like I said, I didn't really have a ton of like advice for upholders at this point in the game, because right now I'm kind of talking about developing habits and things like that in your personal life, and also in your business. But you guys are pretty good at forming habits, so I don't have a whole lot of advice for you in this area, but there are some things that we'll chat about down the road. Okay, so our next category, also one that I don't totally understand, the questioner. So questioners, I'll comply if you convince me why. Have you ever heard yourself saying, prove it? Or just because I said so, I don't think so. Justification leads to motivation. But why? If you've heard yourself saying those things, you might be a questioner. Questioners are ones that respond to inner expectations by doing what makes sense to them. And they resist outer expectations until they've justified it, and then it becomes an inner expectation and they have no problem meeting it. Questioners love information. They love data. They love improving systems. They hate irrational, and they hate inefficiency. If it's something that seems like it could be a waste of time to them, they don't want to do it. Questioners also, interestingly,
you might be an obliger actually.
Being in line. They hate waiting in line, and they hate traffic because it's inefficient. It makes no sense. Like, they just I have no time for this. And if you ask them to do something that they don't understand why, they're not going to do it. And it's not because they're inconsiderate or because they don't value you. They just don't understand why. And so they're just not driven by anything that doesn't make sense to them. So as a questioner, when you're trying, if you're struggling to meet a goal, let's say, you know, in your brain, yeah, working out daily, it makes sense, and you're struggling with it, then maybe you haven't really clarified to yourself your why it doesn't make sense. What is the most efficient way to do this? What is the best way for me? You need to do your research. If you're struggling to do a habit, because you respond to internet expectations, right? So like an upholder, once you decide something is right for you, you probably won't have a whole lot of trouble implementing it. So if you have trouble implementing it, it's probably because you haven't actually justified it to yourself, and you need to take that step back and you need to figure out, what's the disconnect here? What don't I actually believe? Why do I think that this is actually not right for me? You are more about the why, and as opposed to, well, this is just what I'm going to do now. It's, this is what I want, but why do I want it? And that's going to be kind of the key for you. They're very data driven. They're very fair minded. And I think questioners are really interesting because they look at a system and they say, they're the type of people that if you told them like, well, it's just the company way, they would resist that because that makes no sense to them. It's, you know, why can't we improve? There's got to be other ways for us to do this. There's got to be other ways for efficiency. And so this is a really great asset in business as well, because you have found ways to kind of streamline your business, but it's important for you, if you're having trouble streamlining, one, you just got to sort of suss it out, but also making sure that you understand why you're doing what you're doing. If invites don't make sense to you, then you're probably not going to do them. So you need to get clear on why you're inviting. Why are you adding people to your network? Why are you reaching out and sending hey girls? Why are you mentoring other women in this business? Why are you drinking Shakeology every day? It's all about the why for questioners. And that can be really, really irritating for other people who aren't questioners, because they're, especially upholders, have a really tough time with questioners because they're like, just get it together, man. And the questioners are like, but why? Why should I get it together? Tell me why. And it's really interesting. In the book, Gretchen Rubin is an upholder and her husband is a questioner. And some of their examples are fascinating to me, especially those are kind of the two personality types I don't really understand all that much. Like, I mean, intellectually, I get it. But it's super important that if you are around a questioner, that you just recognize that they need justification. And I'll kind of talk about, as like a team leader, how you can sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Speak to the different personalities in a little bit. But let's see. Questioners are also very reasonable people, and they're very justified, but they reject conventional wisdom. And this can go to kind of an extreme where questioners sometimes maybe question things that they shouldn't because that's just what they do, and then they become conspiracy theorists. So for instance, I think it was Steve Jobs, when he was a kid, firmly believed that eating like 8 servings of fruit or some nonsense like that, meant that he would not have body odor and didn't need to wear deodorant. I think it's pretty obvious that that's sort of silly, but he was pretty convinced. And so questioners, they can kind of go one of two ways. They can have analysis paralysis, where you're so busy questioning everything that you actually forget to start making action. And at some point you sort of have to give yourself a deadline. And that's one of the ways to fight analysis paralysis. If you're the type of person that's like, well, I've been researching this for months, and I think this comes up, these are actually kind of challenging people when you're talking to. These are and we'll talk about this in a minute, but when you have questioners, they're the types of people that give you a lot of objections. And sometimes it's really frustrating. And then you have someone that just like, you can tell that they're right there, like they're getting there, but they just keep asking questions, and then they're really overwhelmed by the information and they get analysis paralysis. And it's really important, if you're one of those people, to give yourself a deadline, and say, okay, I can do the research, but at some point I need to make a decision, because I can always keep doing research, but if I don't make a decision, who the F cares about all the research I just did? So you need to give yourself some deadlines and give yourself a timeline of when you're going to stop doing the research and just make a freaking decision. And then also they swing into this kind of weird place where they start believing that fruit cures body odor. Let's see. Oh, and then this is another thing that's tough for you questioners, is that you have kind of trouble sometimes completing necessary work because it's inefficient, or it's not, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there are some things that we have to do as people that don't make sense, and questioners really, really struggle with that. So questioners are the people that wake up in the morning and say, what needs to get done and why? Onward. I feel like obligers. So one, I am 0% surprised that obligers were the most common answer in the poll for two reasons. One, because obliger is the most common tendency. And two, because you people are the type of people that do what's asked of you. And so when someone asks you to answer a poll question, you answer it. Also, I have to laugh a little bit because Keisha totally called me out. It was my poll and I didn't even freaking answer the question because, you know, #rebel. So anyway, obligers. This talk, fortunately, because most of you are obligers, this will be helpful, hopefully. But you're the people that I have the most, I think, information for, hopefully. And then also rebels a little bit, but you're a smaller group, so we can chat more independently if we want. So obligers, you can count on me, and I'm counting on you to count on me. Now, if you've ever heard yourself say, by serving others, I serve myself. If I have to, I will. I'll do everything you ask until I won't. How can I be of service to you? All for one and one for all. You, my friend, might be an obliger. So obligers are the people that readily meet outer expectations, but they really, really struggle meeting their own expectations for themselves. And that can be a real struggle. And this, you guys, I think for those of you who aren't familiar with the obliger tendency, I really hope that this is like a huge light bulb moment for you, because I can see where as an obliger, it must be incredibly frustrating to say, I know I need to do X, Y, and Z. I just can't make myself do it, and I can't figure out why. There must be something wrong with me. Great news is, there ain't nothing wrong with you. You're wonderful and perfect. We're just going to show you how to bring that out. Obligers love accountability. Like, these are our rock star challengers, our rock star coaches, our rock star friends and colleagues and coworkers. They make great bosses, they make great colleagues, because they do what's asked of them. They're incredibly reliable people, but they're reliable people not because of, yeah, Jackie, you guys are really fun. They're reliable people not necessarily because of their own internal desire to be that way, but because they cannot, like, they're so group oriented and cannot even fathom letting someone down that it can almost go a little too extreme. So they love accountability, they love community, and they love clear expectations. If you're an obliger and you're having trouble at work knowing what's asked of you, I think this is something that obligers sometimes struggle with, but you're gonna have to nut up and you're gonna have to ask. You're going to have to ask, what do you expect of me? Because that's gonna help you a ton in getting stuff done at work and creating a space for you to be the most successful. You need that. I think all of us honestly need clarity. That's kind of a theme. Obligers hate being taken advantage of and feeling like a doormat, because it's really easy for the rest of us to take advantage of obligers and use them as a doormat. If I had something that I needed done, do you think I'm going to go to the person who responds to nothing, rebels, or the two people that don't respond to outer expectations? Or am I going to go to the person who's an obliger who I know will do it? Probably going to go to the obliger. So they're sort of the workhorses oftentimes. And it's really important to stand up for yourself as an obliger. And I think that this is something that is a real slippery slope. And so let's shift gears a little bit and think about, okay, I'm an obliger. I do great in settings where I have accountability, but like, why can't I do anything for me? Why am I so good at helping other people, but I'm really bad at helping myself? And how can we fix that? It's a really simple switch, and I'm not saying it's easy, because nothing good is really ever easy, but it's a really simple switch in that it's taking something that's inner and creating an outer expectation for it. So that's something like obligers do really good. They do really good with like even reminders on your phone. Some obligers, all they need is their phone to remind them, hey, it's time to get your workout done, or things along those lines. And then it's also, if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, think of future you and have future you hold you accountable. So future you wants a rocking body. So you better do your 80-day obsession workout this morning, because future you is counting on you. And future you wants you, if I were an obliger, future you wants you to pass boards. So you better do your studying today, because future you is counting on you. So that's one way of doing it, but it's also it's really easy to have someone in your circle. You just need to verbalize your goals to people. You need to verbalize to someone, hey, it's my goal that I wake up early and do my workout every single day this week. And even by having that system set in place, you are going to create that extra layer of accountability. And if you're someone who's not an obliger but has an obliger friend, or obligers can do this for each other, obviously, you try to, especially I think upholders struggle with this the most, because they don't need accountability. So they don't really it's hard for upholders to understand, and they get kind of frustrated with people who ask them to be held accountable. But if you're that person, then hold them accountable. They want that. And it also sometimes helps to create fake deadlines for yourself, or even ask your boss or your mentor or someone in your life to create a fake deadline. So maybe you have a project at work that actually doesn't need to be done for a month, but you know that you won't do it until it's done, or until it's due. Even just saying, hey, boss, please give me a smaller deadline, create a fake deadline for me. And it's really just about, I think, recognizing this in yourself and then just asking for what you need, which is tough to do, I think, for anyone, except for, I think, upholders. I don't think upholders really struggle asking for what they need. But getting very clear on that and getting clear on what you need and then asking for it. And then just recognizing, like, I think anyone in this, because we all have our own struggles somewhere because of our tendency. I think recognizing that these are things that are sort of inherent help us not take the blame for something that we feel is a shortcoming. And it sort of empowers you to say, okay, well, now I understand why it's been so freaking hard for me to stay on track with my workouts, because I haven't actually asked anyone to hold me accountable, and I don't respond well to inner accountability. Or maybe in your business, maybe you're like, I don't understand why I'm struggling so hard to hit Success Club. I know that I'm supposed to, and I know what I need to do to get it done, but I just can't seem to get the work done. That's probably because you haven't created a system of outer accountability to help you get there, because you don't respond to inner accountability. And it's sort of a kind of a crazy concept to think, like, why can't I just, and obligers are actually, one, you're the most common group, but you're also the most common to wish you were someone else, because you wish that you could hold yourself accountable. You wish that you could do X, Y, and Z. Well, I don't know, maybe this is gonna be kind of tough love, but like, get over it. Like, just move on. Accept the fact that that's not how you respond to expectations, and create a system that works for you. And that's where all of this information is really all well and good, and I hope very helpful, but it's not helpful if you don't do anything with it. So, obligers, here's your accountability. I want you to do something about it, okay? So I have some other tips that come from other coaches that I'll get to kind of at the end, about some kind of really fun and creative things that obligers do to kind of get more out of their business. But just be really careful and be really mindful that you are susceptible to burnout, and you have those difficulties with boundaries and trying to create a system in which you have those boundaries, because obligers they sometimes can get to this point where like they're doing and they're doing and they're doing and they're doing, and then they sort of hit this threshold where then they're just like, I'm done. And it's been really interesting, some of the studies that Gretchen Rubin has done, that obligers are the most common types of people to be in a situation and then walk out on jobs without any notice, walk out on marriages without any notice, because of what she calls obliger rebellion. So that's where it's really important to be cognizant of who you are as a person and recognize when you need to say no. Yeah, so that's sort of obligers. And then the rebels. I really love being a rebel, quite frankly, but we can be real assholes sometimes. And so I think, so the rebel, this is where like we're kind of assholes, is you can't make me and neither can I. We don't respond to inner expectations or outer expectations. And so if you're not a rebel, or if you are a rebel and you're like, WTF, where do I go from here? This is probably the moment where you're like, well, then what the hell do these people respond to? And that's why we're really, really difficult people to manage. And I apologize for that. So if you find yourself saying things like, it's so hard when I have to, and it's so easy when I want to, may the bridges burn and light my way. You're not the boss of me, which I've said so many times. Ask forgiveness, not permission. I do what I want because I feel like it. And don't believe me, just watch. It's my favorite. So rebels resist all expectations, and they act very much from a sense of choice, a sense of freedom, and a sense of expression. And I think some of the most authentic DGAF people on this team are rebels. And two people come specifically to mind, Casey Rashavi and Shelly. And those are two people that I feel like on social media are just like, look, I'm gonna say whatever I wanna say, and you're gonna take it or leave it, and I don't care if you like me. And I think that that's very, very common with rebels, is that we care. Authenticity is probably the most important thing to us, which is really interesting because I named my smaller team back before I knew any of this a year ago, Authentic Fit Foundation. Had no, like, I literally just put that together in my mind just right now. Had no, I didn't even think about that. But authenticity is super important to rebels. And so I think choice, freedom, and fun are how we get stuff done. And so rebels love flouting expectation. That's sort of the don't believe me, just watch. They're very much motivated, as opposed to this is what you should do. It's almost more of a, here are the consequences if you don't do this. They're very much the way that rebels are motivated, I guess you could say, and this is how I sort of have started motivating myself, is that you are given a set of choices, you are given consequences, and you are given the freedom to make that decision. It's we are totally the type of people that if you say, even if, and this happens a lot, my parents really don't love this about me, even if it was something that I was already planning on doing, like for instance, I think during vet school, I had like this moment where I was gonna try going gluten-free, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try going gluten-free, and then literally my dad was like, hey, I read this book and I think you should go gluten-free. I don't need to go gluten-free. I'm not gonna do that. And it's such an asshole thing to do, but it's so true that the second you feel like you're boxed in, you resist. And these are the type of people that probably, aside from obligers that don't have outer accountability, these are the type of people that probably struggle the most with creating routine, because we freaking hate routine. It feels like a trap. It feels like a box. It feels like our choice has been robbed from us. But here is how we can counter this dislike for routine. Because I will say, while I also agree that I don't really love, yeah, I can't track either. While I don't genuinely love having like the same day every day, the way that I have been able to shift this is that rebels really care about their identity and who they are as a person. So it's very much, who do I want to be? How do I want to identify? And I want to identify as someone who works out every day. I want to identify as someone who takes care of myself. I want to identify as someone who is strong and capable and not limited by physical handicaps. So that's why I work out every day. It's not because I enjoy the routine or I thrive with the accountability. It's because of who I want to be as a person motivates me. And the consequence of not working out is I don't get to be that person. The consequence of not drinking my shake is I don't get to feel healthy. I have to have migraines again. The consequence of someone who doesn't study is I don't get to pass boards, and that would really freaking suck. So it's sort of a backwards way of motivating someone. And it's something that we have to sort of figure out for ourselves. If you're trying to motivate a rebel, you're going to have to be really, really careful about your verbiage. And if you're a rebel trying to motivate yourself, you're going to have to be pretty careful about even the way that you talk to yourself. And this is another group of people that wish that they were someone different. I think until they recognize what badasses they are. Because it's really frustrating to know that something is good for you and know how to do something and then not be able to do it. And a lot of it is putting too much pressure on yourself. So here are some tips on ways in which you can kind of almost trick yourself into doing the things that you need to get done. One is setting a timer, like a competition. So for instance, the other day, I actually got this idea from Cassie, who's not a rebel, but I ate my pre-workout meal and then I was like, okay, I've got 1 hour. I wonder how much stuff I can get done in the next hour. And I just like busted through it and I made it a game. I made it fun. It's turning the monotonous into something fun. Or if you can outsource monotonous, like if you have maybe an upholder or an obliger that you're married to and you can outsource things like laundry, please do. It's very smart. And then also pretending. You can also pretend to be, this is a really interesting thing that I've kind of started to do because this is kind of embarrassing. So I am on a research block right now, and like, I don't love research. I have no desire to do that ever once I'm done with my residency, but it's required. And so I kind of pretend to be like a researcher. I'm like, oh yes, I'm a very formal researcher, boop, 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 you know, and I like pretend to be that person. And like, I kind of get into like, I'm going to pretend that this is my identity. So one example that was in Gretchen Rubin's book was that rebels will pretend to be like cooks or pretend to be maids, things like that, to like get stuff done because it kind of makes it a little bit more fun. It's sort of ridiculous, but it works. And I've sort of been doing that my entire life. I just never really realized it before. So, and then if those things aren't working, or those are more kind of practical applications from a mindset standpoint, flipping the script and thinking, doing this thing isn't boxing me in, it's setting me free. Again, doing this thing isn't boxing me in, it's setting me free. So the workout example, working out every single day at the same time doesn't box me in, it sets me free to be the type of person that I want to be. Doing daily business building activities doesn't box me in, it sets me free to have financial freedom, or to be, you know, to just be the person that you want to be. More than anything, rebels need to feel like they have choice, and they need to recognize that there are consequences. Another interesting kind of personal example, well, I think it's interesting, it might not be. I don't speed. I don't ever speed. If I do, it's unintentional, and then I immediately like stop speeding. And I don't not speed because I firmly believe that the speed limit is a really good idea and that everyone should follow it. I don't speed. I follow the speed limit because I don't want to get a ticket. Literally the only reason I don't speed. It's the consequence. It's not because I feel some moral obligation to follow the speed limit. So that's sort of some of my takes on the rebel. From a strength standpoint, they enjoy meeting challenges. In fact, that's a really great way to motivate a rebel, is to give them a challenge. And I think the times that I've seen the most explosion in my business have been times that I've been challenged. When I was challenged to reach diamond by a certain time, when I was challenged to push for 1 star, I didn't hit it, but I saw a lot of growth and I saw a lot of hustle, because there was sort of a little bit of like, this might be too hard for you, but you can go for it. And I definitely did it. And actually, I should clarify, I've literally never not felt supported. But certain people have recognized this in me and have learned that this is a great way to motivate me. They're very outside the box thinkers. Like, if you want someone to get creative, that they're probably the type of person for you. They defy expectations. They tackle things just to prove to themselves and to others that they can. They're incredibly tenacious and resilient people. They're oftentimes the people that feel like failure is not an option. And they, like I said, they place a high value on authenticity, and genuinely, or generally, oftentimes know what they want and know how to get it. So those are all pretty great things to have, but they're also, like I've said before, difficult to motivate. I will tell you that this is very true. They're oftentimes pretty irrational. I apologize to people all the time. The number of times I've told someone, I know this is irrational, but I couldn't even tell you. And they're often restless and sometimes not very cooperative. So that's important to know that about yourself, that you're not, I mean, you might be an asshole, but you're probably not an asshole. You're just a rebel and need to suss out how to flip that script. And I think for all of these things, recognizing that this is kind of the underlying thing is like, it's a lot easier for me to understand like why I struggle so much with authority at work. And then recognizing, okay, you struggle with authority, but that's not an excuse. You just got to figure out a way to do it. You just got to be an adult. So rebels are very much, what do I feel like doing today? Just a couple more things. I had a couple of ideas and I'll go through these quickly because I know I'm running out of time, but I had a couple of ideas for sort of outside the box ways that we can utilize the tendencies to help our customers, or maybe potential customers, and lead teams. But I think it's really important to remember, meet people where they're at and help them go where they want to go. This isn't about us, it's about them. So when you're talking to a potential customer, things that I think finding a pain point can really tell you a lot about their tendency. So these are maybe things that you can utilize if you've sort of gotten an idea of what you think their tendency might be from talking to them. Is just some random thoughts that I had, legitimately, like I was showering and I have these thoughts pop into my head. Don't all the best thoughts happen when you're in the shower? So I think upholders will really, like, I think this is where if you have a suspicion that someone's an upholder, this is where you can really highlight like the calendars and the plan and the routine, like that. They're totally going to vibe with that. They're going to love that there's something that they can follow. Questioners are going to have a lot of objections, and they're going to want to do their research. And so you need to be patient with those people. But they're also really going to dig the efficiency of Beachbody On Demand. And that's something that you can really, really kind of touch on, is like, it's so efficient. You don't have to leave. It's at the click of a button. You don't have to think about what workout you're going to do the next day because it's on a calendar. You've already gotten it. So they're really going to like how efficient it is and how there's no time wasted with On Demand. Obligers are probably honestly the ones that are like the most ready to go. When you, like, if you have someone that's like, I'm ready, they're probably an obliger. And those people they're going to be like rock star challengers. I don't have actually a lot of tips on like how to attract an obliger, because I think they kind of attract themselves. But they're the people that like, they'll say to you, man, I have a gym membership, but I never go. Or I just can't seem to make myself go to the gym. Like, they might be obligers. They might just need that extra layer of accountability. And rebels are going to resist expectation, but they're going to embrace choice. And so this is where you can highlight things like, there's so many options on Beachbody On Demand, and or you can talk about the identity of how that's going to make them feel, what type of person they're going to become. Because they're not going to, like, they're going to really, really resist you saying things like, girl, you should totally get into this. Like, you know how benign that sounded? You tell me, girl, you should do this. I immediately like, bye, I ain't doing it. And it's just who I am. And I used to think that that was a bad thing. And I don't know that it's a good thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing. So those are some sort of ideas on ways that you can kind of use people's own tendencies to motivate them to make a decision to join a challenge group. And then motivating your team. And like I said, I have like lots and lots of thoughts about this, but just message me if you want to chat more, because I like literally love talking about this all day, every day. So if you have an upholder on your team, they're probably not the people that are struggling to create a schedule or struggling, they probably already have a schedule, like before you even invited them to join you. They're probably like, I have a schedule, I'm ready. Or they do large calls on building schedules. But these people are really going to jive with expressing and verbalizing individual goals and team goals. And they're gonna just really, really dig that. And they're gonna be the type of people that you figure out like how they want to lead. And if you help them figure out who they want to be and how they want to lead, they're not hard to motivate, but they are people that you're going to have to help prevent burnout. And you're going to have to help prevent them overextending themselves. And you're going to have to be really, really careful about suggesting something to them. We kind of already talked about that. If you have questioners on your team that are struggling, these people need to get real clear on why they're building a business, why they're setting specific goals. This isn't I want to help people, which is great. We all want to help people. They need to get really, really, really crystal clear on why they're doing it and why they're doing it this way. And if they can't get crystal clear on why they're doing it the way that they're doing it, they're probably not doing it the right way for them. So this is where having them really speak their goals and the why behind it. So much about the why. They're very why-centered people, which is really funny because when I asked some of the diamonds about how they've utilized their tendencies, the questioners that's all they ever talked about was just, well, because once I knew that this was my why, then it was no trouble at all. Obligers are going to excel when you have goals that have chunks and accountability. So these are the type of people that checking in with them and having a game plan with them and say, okay, you say you want to do 30 invites by Friday. I'm going to check back with you on Friday and see how you're doing. Or, hey, let's do a power hour together. They're going to really thrive in those situations where there's some layer of external accountability. And then rebels, they're going to need they're going to need that freedom. And again, I think honestly, the best way to motivate a rebel on your team is to give them choice, but also give them consequences. You know, maybe you have a rebel that's really having a tough time hitting Success Club. And then you say, hey, look, like, you can do whatever you want. Run your business your way. You're the CEO. But the consequence of not hitting Success Club is people may not take you seriously as a business builder. Or the consequence of not hitting Success Club is you're not setting a good example for your builders. Or, you know, something along those lines. Or, hey, if you hit Success Club every month for 12 months, you're going to get recognized on stage at Summit. The consequences don't necessarily have to be negative consequences. And then you say, but, you know, you do you. So that's my thought on builders. And then I just really quickly wanted to share a couple of ideas that I got from other people. Yeah, registering for trips. There's all sorts of ways that you can trick rebels into doing what you want them to do. But they're going to catch on, so you have to be real sly. Okay. So from some of the leaders in this team, I asked them, what are some things that they've done since they started kind of recognizing their tendency and something that's helped them in their business? And basically the upholders said that one thing that that has really helped them a ton is recognizing that not everybody is an upholder and being more patient with people that are motivated differently or need that sort of accountability. Questioners, they said, be super solid in your why. If you're a questioner, the leaders on this team that are questioners just reiterated, be super, super solid in your why. Rebels kind of already talked about this, but have fun, revamp the mundane. If something's boring, make it fun. If inviting doesn't seem fun to you, like, one, it should be, but two, like, make it fun. Like, have a freaking dance party while you're doing it, or say, like, I'm going to play this song and I'm going to dance while I invite and see how many invites I can do while I'm doing this dance party, which I literally just came up with the top of my head, and it's probably what I'm going to do from now on. Pretend like you are a 15-star diamond and identify with that. Identify as, I'm a 15-star diamond coach. What would a 15-star diamond coach do right now? They'd get their shit done. And flip the script. Again, like, don't think of things how they could be boxing you in. Think about how they could set you free. And then obligers, I got some really, really good ones that I really enjoyed from this. But one is ask people around you to hold you accountable. So again, ask for what you need, but then explain why you need that, because some people aren't going to understand why you need that. Vocalize your goals, set alarms. Power hours and live workouts are amazing. And one thing that I think has been really amazing about this team lately is we've done a ton of stuff like that because we have a lot of freaking obligers, and you know those girls are showing up every damn week and they're making some serious moves in their business. So that's incredible. Weekly and monthly check-ins with your upline, pressing into this community. Like, embrace the FOMO, embrace, like, if I don't do this thing, I don't get to go on a Success Club trip. So I'm not going to, like, I'm going to miss out on this really fun thing. And then this one was probably my favorite tidbit from Rachel Sampson. And she said that she set alarms. She put herself on Keisha and Jackie's schedule. And so she set an alarm that says dinner with the girls, and like, cause you know, we have time nutrition with 80 Day Obsession. And so she's put herself, cause I know one thing that she had struggled with was getting her workouts done consistently in the morning. Cause when you work from home, it's easy to kind of fit it in wherever. And so she literally set alarms to be like, Keisha's counting on you, which I thought was like a super genius obliger thing to do.
I literally peed when she said that. I like peed my pants. I was laughing so hard.
I know. So I know that was a ton of information. I'm sorry if I went really, really fast, and I know I went kind of late, but that's what I have.
You are absolutely incredible. I don't know how much you could see the chat, but like, you nailed this. So much incredible information and content, and so perfect. And I honestly don't think that you could have delivered that better. Like, everyone's like, my brain is exploding. Like everyone's so excited. So thank you. I feel like that was really a good way to think about other people that you know in your life that you are around, right? Either in the business setting or in your personal life, of how to better support them too. It's just, this is so good for business, but like way more importantly for life. So
totally. Yeah. I mean, and there's so much. That's why I think if this was at all interesting to you, like definitely check out the book, because there's so much, and she does a really good job of talking about like spousal relationships and coworkers. And if I know there's a lot of people in here that are healthcare professionals, she talks specifically about each personality as a patient and things along those lines. So it's overarching in so many ways. I tried to be a little bit more focused, but yeah, I mean, I just think that there's so many, I mean, I'm obsessed with it for a reason.
So amazing. Thank you so much, Lo. Seriously, incredible content. And all of you guys who are on live, I'm going to stop recording. I'll get the recording posted because I'm going to